Hey guys, this will be a summary for the latest web novel chapter. The reason why it's out so late is because Tappei released it 6 hours later than usual. That's most likely because his plain anime was airing today. Before I summarize the current chapter, I want to quickly look back at chapter 82, so I have to make a quick correction. So, in chapter 82, I stated that Louis Arneb eclipsed into lay batting Kaitos, which allowed him to escape from Ram temporarily, and we could tell this due to Louis Arneb's speech patterns. However, Ringo, the main translator for Witch Cult Translation, is unsure of this. So, here's his statement on screen. So, he's currently unsure of whether or not it was actually Louis Arneb or not, so take that with a grain of salt, okay? The second thing I wanted to quickly clear up was yesterday's web novel summary where I stated that Ram was able to take and give burdens to Rem, and many people thought I meant that she was somehow stealing Subaru's authority or Corleone's. That isn't the case. So on screen you can see the ability Ram was using. Ram can use this ability to take Rem's horn powers and give Rem some of Ram's burden. So this is what she was using. So she wasn't using Corleone's. She got the idea from Subaru, but she was using her own innate ability, which only Rem and Ram can use because they're twins and their souls are linked. Hopefully that cleared up some questions, and this video will again be a summary of chapter 87, which is a continuation of chapter 86, which is on my channel if you want to go watch that now. The scene starts with a dazed Meili being carried. Meili states that this isn't the first time she's been carried like this, thinking of Elsa. She never really knew what her relationship to Elsa was. Either way, the wounded Meili then proceeded to vomit out blood as Beatrice and Subaru tried to figure out what to do to save her. They advised her to spit out the blood so she didn't choke on it. Meili couldn't remember what happened to her, only knowing that her back felt uncomfortable, and that's the reason why she couldn't move and felt dazed. The scene then actually shows what actually happened to Meili. As the Hungry Horse Kings attacked Shula, Shula turned crimson red and irradiated light, which grazed Meili in the back, burning her fatally. As Meili was hit, she was blasted onto the sand, and Subaru realized what he had to do. He had to use Corleone's so he could take Meili's burden. However, he had to take it in a suitable amount, because if he took too much of Meili's burden, then Subaru would die, and they would both die as a result of it. So he had to balance it out. There was one problem with this. This was the fact that Subaru was already taking Ram's burden via Corleone's, and he couldn't take Ram and Meili at the same time. However, he realized that if he stopped Corleone's on Ram, Ram would realize that Subaru was doing it for an important reason. And then he joked that Ram would most likely punish him later. Subaru starts running with Meili in his arms, and Meili starts vomiting blood. So this is exactly what happened at the start of the chapter, and now we're getting it from Subaru's point of view. Beatrice is holding off the Hungry Horse King because Meili is out of action, so her divine blessing is not activated. So all of the witch beasts are also going to attack Subaru and Beatrice. Beatrice jumps onto Subaru's head and begins healing Meili and Subaru with her magic. Subaru can lift up Beatrice because she's extremely light, so it's no problem. The only good news though is that the witch beasts are fighting with Shula, so this gives Beatrice enough time to regroup and heal everyone. Although I didn't mention it in the chapter 86 summary, Ram does realize that Subaru most likely could use Corleone's to put burdens onto people, so he can lessen the burden on himself. Ram realizes that Subaru is not the sort of person to do that. Under Beatrice's convincing, Subaru uses Corleone's to take Meili's burden and spread it amongst Beatrice and Subaru, so that way Meili can survive. Subaru realizes he can only give the burden to people that are accepting of the burden, so Shula in Scorpion mode did not accept the burden, but Beatrice did. So this means that Subaru can't randomly get wounded and then Corleone's an enemy to one-shot them. Shula then aims her stinger at Beatrice and the group, but they use EMM to survive the attack, and then the scene changes. The scene swaps to Emilia, who's standing in front of the monolith with the 6 handprints. She realizes that they're all human handprints, and 4 of them are male and 2 of them are female. She realized that one of the female handprints looks exactly like her handprints, and as she goes to touch it, she gets called from behind. It's Volcanica. Volcanica is back, and Emilia creates 7 ice soldiers, which she tells to attack Volcanica. Volcanica, with a swipe of his tail, knocks over Emilia and destroys all 7 ice soldiers. Emilia is confused as she orientates herself, because Volcanica destroyed the ice soldiers, but she was unharmed. She should have died. As Emilia gets up, she realizes that Volcanica is literally a few centimeters right in front of her face, and they're staring at each other. Volcanica then asks where Flugel, Shula, Reed, and Farcel are, stating that if she didn't say goodbye to them, they would be sad and miss her. Emilia realizes that Farcel is Farcel Lagunica, the first person that made the covenant with the dragon 400 years ago. Emilia then realizes from this that 4 of the handprints are most likely Flugel, Shula, Reed, and Farcel Lagunica, with 2 unknowns being 1 male and 1 female. Of course, the other female one had the exact same handprint as her, so is most likely belonging to Satella. Volcanica, sensing that something is wrong, states that Satella, you should speak your mind. Emilia chokes up at this. It's only natural after all, because she looks exactly like Satella, but she notices something. She notices that Volcanica said Satella's name with adoration and care. Emilia, obviously confused, mentioned the jealous witch, to which Volcanica immediately went hostile and tried to kill Emilia, but Emilia dodged. Volcanica, with a sad look in his eye, again says Satella, stating that he has to stop Satella from becoming the jealous witch. Volcanica then states that if he didn't falter that one day, then no one would have had to, and then he's cut off there. He didn't finish the sentence. This obviously implied that Volcanica didn't do something which resulted in the death of a lot of people. I'm not sure, but it can be implied. Volcanica once again states Satella's name, to which Emilia responds that my name is Emilia, and they clash for the final time, and the world turns to white as the chapter ends. So that's it for the chapter. Again, I think one of the handprints belongs to Satella, and it's obvious that Volcanica failed to do something one day which resulted in Satella most likely consuming half the world. So Volcanica is most likely blaming himself for that. So yeah, let me know what you think. There was a lot of lore dropped this chapter.